Tell me, did The Little Mermaid make money? Well, if your brain isn't like a criminal in a Michael Jackson song, Smooth, then you know the answer to that. However, people are still trying to justify the fact that, oh, it's broken even, it's made its budget back, yada yada, but even MovieWeb, in a rare W, is coming out and saying, no, this movie's pretty much a flop. Welcome back to Words of Paradise. I'm your host, Leon Idol, and we're going to get into an article confirming that The Little Mermaid is exactly as we thought, dead in the water. Is The Little Mermaid a box office success? While the reaction to The Little Mermaid has been split along ideological lines, the truth behind the remake's box office performance is clear. Now, I will say, I called this a rare dub for MovieWeb, but I don't like this. You know, it's been split along ideological lines, because that's not entirely true. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people trying to defend this movie purely on the woke versus not woke, right versus left, racism versus ally, you know, whatever mentalities. But then you got folks like me, your boy Leon here, who's just so oppressively tired of these live-action Disney remakes, and I have been since the very first, Beauty and the Beast or whatnot, and they've just gotten so much worse. Or not even that, they've gotten so much more generic and paint by numbers, which is, well, worse than worse, because all the artistic integrity, what little if any there was to be had to begin with, has absolutely been stripped, and it is nothing but pandering nostalgia dollars. But you know, folk like me that are against these live action remakes, black skin color mermaid be damned, again, I wouldn't want to see this if it was a white mermaid with red hair. I'm anti live action remakes of these classic Disney films because they're such artistically bankrupt ideas. But yes, there are a lot of ideological lines being, you know, drawn for this film. Just, I wish more care was given to the individuals like me who just want good art. The Little Mermaid live-action remake of the classic 1989 Disney animated film of the same name has become so shrouded in debate and politicization that simply liking the film or not liking the film has become less than about holding a critical opinion and more about defending an ideological position and making a statement. And you know what? The Little Mermaid, that's entirely what this has become. MovieWeb, I do appreciate that they have not exactly attacked it from a right-wing or left-wing angle, which we have seen them do plenty of times in the past. They have straight up said it's happening on both sides. And you know what? You're entirely correct. This is a good article so far, MovieWeb. While many people honestly felt the very idea of remaking the beloved 1989 film was pointless, if not sacrilegious, ding ding ding, much of the criticism of the remake has, of course, centered on the remake's perceived woke agenda. Alright, now we do see, you know, a bit of a lean here. That being said, it's not terrible so far, and there is a woke agenda. I'm not going to get too terribly much into it in this video. That's not what this video is for, but Disney has an agenda. They have some pandering that they've been doing for the last decade, give or take, and people are seeing through it more and more, especially the normies. That said, I don't think that's the majority of the reason people aren't going and seeing this movie. There just aren't enough racists out there to justify how poorly this movie has actually been received at the box office. So yeah, let's move on. Specifically with the casting of Halle Bailey, a black actress, as the film's titular character in a traditionally red-haired and white role. The polarization even extends to the perception of the film's box office performance, as the film's defenders have bent over backwards, so to speak, to portray the film as a box office success, while detractors have been just as keen to portray the remake as a flop. Well, the detractors have been keen to do that, your boy included, but it actually has been a flop. The numbers don't lie. Now look, Aladdin, that movie makes bank. I'm not gonna sit here and try to say that movie was a flop despite my absolute loathing for the live-action Aladdin. It crushed it at the box office, much to my chagrin. That being said, this movie is an unabashed flop, so for the detractors trying to portray it as such, well, they're portraying it in the correct light. Accordingly, while the box office figures, like all statistics, can certainly be twisted to fit conflicting narratives, again, in a rare dub for MovieWeb, this is true. Statistics are very easy to manipulate in your favor, or someone else can do it in their favor if they're arguing against you. I can't find a whole lot wrong with this article, at least not when compared to writings of things like Polygon or Gizmodo or the Mary Sue. Like, this is about as objective as today's modern media can truly be. The current box office performance of The Little Mermaid, approximately 10 days into the remake's theatrical release, is already very telling in terms of deciding if the remake will be profitable for Disney. Swimming upstream overseas. You know, I was going to get on to you for a headline or a head article like that, but then I remembered I opened this with Dead in the Water and thought, yeah, that tracks. Released in North America on May 26, 2023, prior to the Memorial Day weekend, The Little Mermaid grossed $118.6 million over the Friday to Monday Memorial Day frame, slightly ahead of the 2019 live-action remake of Aladdin, which grossed $116.8 million during the same 4-day frame in 2019. Not near as good as Mario did, either of you guys, so maybe Disney needs to start taking some notes. However, this $118.6 million opening weekend at the domestic box office was more than offset by a lackluster opening weekend performance in the international markets. Lackluster! You absolutely, that is an understatement. That is like saying, yeah, Hitler had some bad ideas. No, dude had a lot of bad ideas. Not just a few. Like, Hitler had a lot of really bad ideas. Saying this movie had a lackluster opening weekend, it had an atrocious opening weekend in like China and the Asian market. The Little Mermaid only grossed $63.8 million, including a pitiful, there we go, pitiful is a good word, $2.5 million opening weekend in gross from the all-important Chinese market. As the previous live-action Disney remake films have made more money at the international box office than domestically, and by a wide margin, The Little Mermaid is in a very bad position to simply reach a break-even point financially, much less earn a sizable profit. With a $250 million production cost and a reported $140 million in marketing costs, now I'm going to stop here. While I did say this is a pretty good article, I think this marketing number is far downplayed. Now, that is the reported marketing cost. I will say that they're doing their due diligence and they're going with the reported marketing cost, but traditionally, movies' marketing budget almost as much as the film budget itself, so probably actually closer to $250 million. Now, we're going to go with this $140 million marketing number because that's what the article gives us, but just know that is actually probably incredibly low compared to what it actually is, and Disney's doing a little bit of bookkeeping with their numbers. The Little Mermaid, under the most generous of projections, needs to gross approximately $560 million at the worldwide box office, according to Hollywood insiders, to reach its break-even point. And if you're wondering how you get $560 million, because 250 plus 140 is not 560, you have to account for the theater's cut of the ticket sales, which is about 40 to 60%, depending on whether you're international or domestic. So that's why you get 560, which again, it's actually pretty low. It's probably closer to 600 to 650 million, but we'll go with what this article has to say. However, this $560 million figure, which assumes a $300 million domestic gross and a $260 million international gross, also includes a $100 million in expected earnings from television, both free and paid television, another $100 million from the home entertainment, digital and DVD, and $80 million from international television and sales and streaming rights. Basically, the $560 million break-even scenario accounts for an exhaustion of the film's potential revenue streams beyond its theatrical life and leaves little possibility for the film to be able to achieve any substantial profit for Disney. And there it is. The movie is making no money. Like, nobody here truly argued with that. We all knew this movie was going to be a flop. Whether you thought it was going to be a flop for ideological reasons, for artistic reasons, whatever, we knew this was going to be bad. We have seen this coming since, I don't know, pretty much the downhill spiral of all these live-action remakes post-pandemic. I mean, they threw Pinocchio and what was it, Peter Pan and Wendy on Disney+. They didn't even care enough to put those in theaters because they knew what abject failures they were going to be. The only reason they didn't do that with this movie is because they already announced it was going to be theatrical, and if Disney walked that back, if Disney was like, yeah, we're going to put this on Disney+ because we know it's going to fail, they would be opening a can of worms for all sorts of accusations of racism and this, that, and the other, since they had announced that it was going to be a theatrical experience. You can't tell me that Disney didn't know this movie was going to flop. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They got their hands in all sorts of marketing pies and research. There's no way they thought this movie was going to be a success. That said, Disney knows that, hey, criticism of the brand is bad, especially when it comes to the pandering, woke stuff, if we are going to get into a little bit of that. If they get accusations of being called a racist on Twitter, that's like the end game for Disney. They don't like that. They're the good, virtuous ones. They prop up minority voices, so there was no way they were going to go ahead and put this on Disney+. So they decided to bite the bullet, put it in theaters anyway. That's my theory, at least. Lagging behind the other Disney live-action remakes. With the weak international box office performance, The Little Mermaid has already fallen far behind the box office pace and performance of Disney's previous live-action remake films, not including pandemic-addled 2020 live-action remake of Mulan. And I'm about to say something here that's a bit of a hot take. I think Mulan got even more hate than this did. Now, hold on. Stay with me, I'll explain. First of all, they announced Mushu wasn't going to be in it, and the internet lost its collective shit. And then, more and more marketing came out, plus the whole shiny veneer of the Disney live-action remake was still kind of there at the time. People did, in fact, love, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, whatnot, so people were still excited for these live-action remakes. Mulan was, like, the tipping point of people being like, alright, we gotta admit these are garbage. People still had excitement for these for whatever reason. Now, when you look at Little Mermaid, after disasters like Dumbo and not Cinderella, Peter Pan and Wendy, Pinocchio, people are just apathetic at this point. So yeah, I actually think that Mulan got far more criticism for a myriad of reasons. You can talk about the Muslim Uyghur camps that the film was, shot on, the whole nine. So I know it's hard to take yourself and put your brain back in 2020. No one really wants to remember 2020, but if you were to go back, hop on Twitter and just go all the way back to 2020, I think that film was actually lambasted more, deservedly so, than The Little Mermaid here. For example, the 2019 live-action remake of Aladdin grossed $356.5 million at the domestic, and a whopping 695. Wow! That is insane. I did not realize that many people in the international box office were so ready to piss their money away for things that should not have ever been made for such artistic bankruptcy. Good job, international box office. For a worldwide box office of $1 billion. Prior to Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, the 2017 live-action adaptation of Disney's 1991 animated film, grossed $504 million domestically and $759.5 million internationally for a worldwide box office gross of $1.2 billion. Yeah, there's no way Disney thought that The Little Mermaid was going to make that sort of money. Like, again, they had to have known. They could not look at this product and think, yeah, this is going to do Beauty and the Beast numbers. They had to have only put this out in theaters to avoid any sort of online backlash. That is the only thing that makes so much sense to me. In stark contrast, The Little Mermaid at the end of its second theatrical weekend has grossed approximately $260 million at the worldwide box office. Given its current box office trajectory, especially in the international markets, the only recent live-action Disney film The Little Mermaid has a chance of surpassing, commercially speaking, is Dumbo. For those of you guys that don't remember, yeah, there was a live-action Dumbo remake done by Tim Burton. I think that might have... No, I don't think that. I was going to say it was Disney Plus streaming only, but it had a box office number. I mean, it says here. So, did that even come out in theaters? I thought it was straight to streaming. I mean, who cares? Tim Burton's been a talentless hack since, I don't know, like 2006 and prior. But, wow. The 2019 adaptation of the classic 1941 animated film of the same name, which grossed $353 million at the worldwide box office against a reported $500 million worldwide box office break-even point. A box office iceberg. The Little Mermaid, both animated film and live-action remake, tells the story of a mermaid princess, Ariel, who's captivated by the outer human world, especially after she rescues a dashing human prince, Prince Eric, from drowning. Anxious to be reunited with Eric, Ariel makes a deal with the deceitful sea witch. Okay, we get the gist of it. What do you have to say? Given its array of whimsical elements, how and why The Little Mermaid became such a divisive symbol, and the backlash against the film and the accompanying effect of the practice of review bombing, there it is. That's the MovieWeb I know and love. Like, at the end of the day, MovieWeb is really not too far off from Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, Metacritic, all those individuals that they got a particular agenda they need to sell. You get article after article talking about review bombing from MovieWeb. They always go in and talk about individuals like us, the people who are actually critical of products, and don't just sit there and shove it down our gullet like they're McChickens. You know, they call us, what MAGA people, or they want to say that we're, extremists, that we review bomb. Nah, some people just have taste. They got quality. They want something refreshing and good and new. And then again, I will say, a lot of times people don't go out to support refreshing, new, good things. No one went out and supported The Machine with Burt Kreischer. So, what can you say? But the point is, this is the MovieWeb I know and love. But up to this point, it's been a pretty good and relatively fair and balanced article. As has been suggested, an adverse effect on the film's box office, especially in the international markets, where the remake earned a further discouraging $42 million in its second weekend for a current overseas total of $140.5 million. Regardless of the reason for the backlash to the film's box office performance, the numbers don't lie. The Little Mermaid, which is presently grossed approximately $326 million at the worldwide box office, is a box office failure for Disney. Nail in the fishy coffin. The only remaining question is, will the box office performance of The Little Mermaid and the intense backlash that Disney received for the film affect Disney's approach to their future film and television projects? Well, my God, one can only hope. I do not think that Disney is in any real danger. I do think that they absolutely need to bounce back. Disney's done that before. That's what they did with, ironically enough, The Little Mermaid. The original version was the Disney Renaissance. That was the first film in what's considered the Disney Renaissance. Disney's been up dire straits before. They have never had a very consistent run at the box office. They go through fluctuations. They could do it again here. Disney could look at this as a learning experience and realize, hey, we need to come back from this. As we were talking about on Saturday Night Hypnosis the other night, Will of the Fans, fantastic individual, go check him out, subscribe to his channel, stated it would require a top-down management change and complete restructuring, which I agree with wholeheartedly. That said, it's not impossible for Disney to get back on track and maybe, just maybe, bring some magic back. But until then, movies like these are doomed to Davy Jones' locker. But those are just my opinions. Let me know yours in the comments down below, or let me know on Twitter where you can find me at BoltTheWord. And please do subscribe. We are a hair hairs away from 1,000 subscribers. It would mean the world to me if you did. I only get to do this because of you. Thank you so much for all the support that you've given me. I am a nerdy news channel. I cover nerdy news every day, not just always about Disney movies, but also about anime, video games, Magic the Gathering, you name it, it's all here in the nerdosphere. And this has been Words of Paradise.